Like, I need to snack on the road. These blackberries, as they would say in DC, they on the ones. Pour some water on them and just enjoy these bad boys. Look at those beauties. Fresh, quality, convenient, and conscious. That's us. You know, I make a ride every Saturday to go and pick up fresh produce. Food gets delivered the next day. So, you know, while I was making that ride, I decided, why don't I, talk about the People's Market a little bit, talk about some current events, some things that's on my mind, and share them with you all, just so, you know, y'all can just get an idea for who the People's Market is, like what our values are, what we represent, and also who I am. It's been a crazy week. Roe versus Wade got knocked down by the Supreme Court, which is, honestly not really surprising. I know, earlier, either this month or late last month, I know that, there was like somebody, from some news outlet, some media outlet, that basically dropped, that draft opinion by one of the Supreme Court justices that kind of like gave us a heads up to this. So, I've been reading about this, and, some of the podcasts and shows that I follow have been talking about this for at least a month now, but here it finally is, right? Like, I feel like they just wanted to give, folks a heads up for, whether it was whether that leak was purposeful by the Supreme Court or not, just to kind of like give everybody a heads up so that the whole thing don't burn down and people lose their mind. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. And I think, women should have the right to do whatever they want to do with their body. That's just the reality of it. I can't imagine what it's like to be a woman right now in America. You know what I'm saying? And especially if you live in one of these states where they had already drafted legislation and then approved it, and essentially said, the legislation is stating this is a trigger legislation. So once the Supreme Court does what we pretty much know they're gonna do, this legislation will be in effect. So, for people who live in like Texas, Louisiana, I think there's like 13 or more states that have, passed this trigger legislation. So just really unfortunate, the state of America right now. But, this was really a part of the plan, I feel like, with Donald Trump. Donald Trump was like, look this way, right? And we were all like locked into the media. Every news media outlet was just tearing Trump up, talking about all the things, how stupid he was, how far back he's taken our country, and while, we were so focused and so, I feel like so invested in like the messiness of it all, right? There was actual work being done behind the scenes. Supreme Court justices being appointed, federal judges being appointed. The Republican Party, which is really, to me, like the white supremacist party, starting to gain traction, even though they're starting to lose numbers, which is crazy at the same time, because a democracy is supposed to be about numbers. But right now we're learning that it's really not about numbers, right? It's just crazy. And I think Roe versus Wade, for me, is concerning, even as a man, and again, I'm concerned for women in my life and the women, just who live in this country. You know what I'm saying? Now, some of them don't have options, or they have to cross state lines in order to get access to resources that they really need, right? For their healthcare. So, but for me, it's about privacy. So, like, if a state can have a say over your reproductive system, what else can a state have say over you? Like, if I get pulled over by an officer and I say to that officer, sir or ma'am, why did you pull me over? And they're like, well, just because we can. Not because you have, reason to believe that I've committed a crime, or, reasons for some type of suspicion. So right now, like, there has to be some level of suspicion, from this officer. They got to write down on, at least, even though they could lie, they could do whatever they want to do, they have to write down on a report, why they're, like, searching my car, why they're seizing my items. You know what I'm saying? But what stops the Supreme Court from saying, an officer can pretty much, if you're in their state, they have control over your vehicle and your person, right? Even if you didn't commit a crime, just because they can, just because the state of affairs right now in the country, right? So privacy is a big piece here, because how does somebody know that you get an abortion? How does somebody know that you're even pregnant? And then if you're a woman and you're in one of those states and you don't abide by that law, what does that mean? Do you go to jail? Do you pay a fee? You know what I'm saying? Like, what does it mean? So, like, I just think there's, like, this is about today, but I also feel like, especially being a person of African descent, this is about tomorrow. Because if folks think that the clock has gone back, because of this, I think we're seeing the tip of the iceberg. I think there's so much more that the federal court can do or have say over our personal bodies, our data, our information, all of that stuff. So, it's just something, that we should all be aware of, and, just continue to vote, continue to, like, advocate, at the local level, advocate at the state level too. You know what I'm saying? Like, just don't sit on the sidelines. Like, food this week is going to be popping. Like, we, got our normal staples, put some greenery in that box. So kale, lettuce, the sugar snap peas have been really good. But this week we have cucumber, we have Swiss chard, which is different. And, I definitely want to try to make sure that, we put different things in the box so that people can just, like, try new things. And these are new things for me as well. Like, I haven't been eating like this most of my life. Like, the last couple years that I started to, eat clean, like, started to, like, eat more greens, started to, like, eat more local food, like going to local farmers market and finding food. And I'll tell you that, like, I can just tell the difference between the food, right? And the food actually tastes like food. Like, when you buy, for example, like spinach from the grocery store, that spinach was harvested very early. It's packaged. Most times it's packaged, right? That spinach is normally, packaged. So it goes through some type of packaging process. Then it sits on a truck, right? Because I'm sure it has to travel. Most times, our produce comes from, especially us on the East Coast, most of the year our produce is coming from the West Coast. So it's coming from California, you know what I'm saying? It's coming from other places on the West Coast. Then it sits on the shelf for God knows how long. And I'm pointing that out because, you know, I was having a conversation with someone earlier in the week, and they were like, well, what's the difference between your food and the food at the grocery store? And it's Saturday, right? Get to the farm, I get the food, I chat with Miss Anita and Mr. Rob for a little while, and then I head on my way. The food then goes into a commercial fridge for one night. All the food is delivered the next day. So in the grocery store process, I probably named 5 to 6 steps. There might be more steps. It just may not have the same level of nutrition in it, right? Because when, you know, fruits and vegetables are supposed to be harvested at the point where they're like mature, right? And then eaten, right? That's how folks did it in the old school. That's why you might have your grandmother or your grandfather, or maybe even your great grandmother, your great grandfather be like, yeah, this food don't taste like the food that we grew up with, right? If they like grew up in the South or something like that, where there's a lot of farms, this food don't really taste like how we used to eat our food, you know, because they might have got their food from like a local farm stand, or maybe the local grocery store, the neighborhood grocery store worked with farms to source food, and then, you know, that's how they got their food. So harvest is super early, not as nutritious, definitely not as delicious, right? You also don't know where your food is coming from. Some food is also grown internationally and gets to us, like Mexico, places like that, right? So it's a lot of steps, it's a lot of hands being exchanged. That's also why, like, if you'll ever, you know, be watching the news one day and they'll be like, oh, it's a salmonella outbreak with, you know, this type of lettuce or this type of spinach or, you know, strawberries or whatever. It's because it's so many different people handling the food. It's so many different things. Like, my farmers are literally harvesting the food. These are family-owned farms. They give me the food. You know, I put it in a cooler. I drive it to, you know, where we store our food. And then the next day, I deliver it to customers. That's 3 steps, and it's really just me and the farmers. Nobody else has a hand in this. So, I think if that matters to you, then we are definitely the solution for you, right? Like, we are the solution for, you know, quality, convenient, and then also conscious, because at the end of the day, who we give our money is very important. Like I was saying earlier, like, we gotta vote, we gotta be engaged. So when we go into a store, it seems like a very passive decision when we're spending our money at Walmart or we're spending our money at a local grocery chain. But it's actually not a passive decision, because the farmers who sell the produce to them, right, and are growing their capacity, we don't really know who these farmers are. We don't know what their views are, what their ideals are, right? And at the end of the day, let's say like COVID, when there were supply chain issues, there becomes another supply chain issue, like food shortage, right? For whatever reason. Maybe we don't have enough truck drivers. Maybe we don't have enough people working in distribution centers. Or maybe there's climate challenges in a place like California, right? Where they can't grow certain produce anymore because, you know, they don't have enough water, or it's too hot. You know what I'm saying? Like, or it's too dry. And those types of fruits and vegetables don't do well in that type of climate. Who do we rely on if we're outsourcing? And when I say outsourcing, I don't necessarily mean all international. What I mean by outsourcing is, like, it could be like states away or hundreds of miles away. If we're outsourcing all of our food from outside of our local sort of region, those farmers who once existed, those family farms that once existed, how can they exist if the big grocery stores don't purchase their produce, you know, wholesale, right? So like, I know for the chain grocery stores, it's probably just easier for them to have deals with like big farms, right? Like it's just easier, because I will say this, it is difficult sourcing food from several different small farms. It is challenging, right? And the reality is that their systems probably don't support it. However, what do we do when the supply chain breaks down or things happen and we don't have any local farms to source food from because we haven't been supporting them? Or on the other end, there's a breakdown and there's just there's like such a small number of farms, so they can only feed a certain amount of families, right? So like a lot of, you know, I would say that the big reason why I'm doing this is because I also want to change the way that people eat, right? Like if the food is more nutritious and it tastes better and you're supporting local farms and you're actually, you know, decreasing your carbon footprint, right? Because I'm driving, but I'm not driving that far to get to where I need to go, right? To get the food, and then I'm dropping it off at your door. So it's not like everybody's coming to the grocery store, parking their cars, right? And then everybody's going wherever, going home, going here, going there. It's like, no, we'll aggregate the food, you know, we'll box it up and we'll deliver it to your door. You know what I'm saying? One of our drivers will deliver it to your door. You don't have to go anywhere. So like, if you can, you know, play your part and play your role, why not support local farms? Why not support local agriculture? So, you know, that's my like little soapbox or whatever. And you know, our values, back to our values. So quality, again, I make sure every item that's in your box, you know, I'm looking at it. I'm making sure that it's fresh. I'm making sure that I talk to my farmers, you know what I'm saying? I say, hey, like, you know, last week, this produce didn't look, you know, optimal. It didn't look its best. Like, it was edible and it's good, but it didn't look its best. Can we, you know, whatever you can do on your end, you know, please do it so that, you know, once the food gets to the customer's door, and then once it's in their refrigerator, right, that it lasts for a decent amount of time and they get the best sort of quality produce, right? Convenient, we're delivering it right to your door. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't even have to think about eating healthy. You don't have to think about doing your part. We do it for you. All you have to do is go on our website, subscribe to a box, a full box or a small box. Our full boxes are normally for families, right? Our small boxes, and it also depends on what your diet is. Our small boxes are for like 1 to 2 people. Maybe you're like an older couple or even a younger couple, and you know, you want to make sure that you're doing, you know, your part, eating locally, eating fresh, you know, getting your greens in during the week. You can do the half box, and then we have eggs and flowers, which you can also add on. You only have to go to our website really a couple times, set it and forget it, and the order comes directly to your door. Our last pillar is conscious, because we do work with black farmers. We pay our black farmers, right? And we're proud of that. We're so proud of that. You know, we love to pay people what they deserve to be paid. And we also love to work with people, you know, who are, you know, of African descent. It's that simple for me. And you know, we will definitely have, you know, farmers from other backgrounds and other cultures, and I'll keep everybody posted here on that, because I think it's important to update folks and let you all know who we're working with and why and all that other stuff. So, you know, we'll definitely update you all, because, you know, I'm trying to put more fruit in the boxes. And what I will say is that a lot of the black farmers that I've worked with or I've spoken with are more focused on the veggie side of produce, but that maybe don't have fruit trees for whatever reason. So also want to make sure that you all as customers get what you want in the box. You know, like, apples and strawberries and peaches and stuff like that. So, you know, we are working on finding additional farms in order to provide more of a variety of fruits in the boxes as well. So look out for that. And the last thing that I'll say is this, right? My boy, really my best friend, you know, one of my guys who, you know, has always loved me and supported me, my boy Chad. I was talking to him yesterday. We do like a weekly phone call where we just like update each other on what's going on. He's Malcolm's godfather, so, you know, I'm always like telling him what's going on with Malcolm, telling him what's going on with Shaka. You know, he's telling me what's going on with his beautiful wife Jordan. You know, we were talking yesterday, and he was like, man, like, you really out here doing it, cuz. And I was like, honestly, man, like, I'm you know, I feel like we're just getting started, right? And he was like, so what, you know, what's your secret? And I honestly, I don't really think there's a secret. And again, I'm just getting started. Like, you know, we definitely have capacity to grow. We definitely want to grow, right? But like, the consistency for me is like, I feel like the most important pillar, right? So like, you know, making sure that the orders are consistently good, making sure that everything, that the experience is consistent for the customer, but also doing stuff like this for like with social media. Like, you know, I'm very big on my family. So like, you know, I work the evening sometimes in order to, you know, get work done. Like, you know, just making sure that like our accounting is up and making sure that like all of our sort of business operations are running smooth. You know, I do work sometimes in the evenings, and obviously I work on the weekends, right? But I'm big on my family. So like, I really try to get as much time in with Malcolm and Shaka, my mom, you know, my stepdad, as I can, because I feel like without them, I wouldn't even be able to do any of this stuff. So like, I always make sure I have time for them, right? So like during the week, doing like social media and stuff like that, you know, I'm trying to get better at it, but to be honest, my number one priority is my family. It always will be over everything, because I can have all the money in the world, but if I don't have family, you know, to love me and for me to love on them, then I'm not really doing anything, right? But I will say, like, the you know, these rides and this conversation that I decided to start having, you know, works out, because, you know, now I'm doing this weekly. I'm having these conversations with you all. Also kind of having these conversations with myself a little bit. So it's consistency for me, like consistently getting on here and having these conversations, updating y'all on what's going on with our progress, you know, what some of our beliefs and thoughts are, so that you all know who you're doing business with, you know, because again, when you spend your money, you're voting. It's a passive vote, but it's a vote, right? Like, you say whether or not people's doors stay open, and people's values should matter. You know, people, what they think about other people and their affairs, to me, doesn't matter. But sometimes you have people who literally, like, you know, don't want people to have access to certain resources. And maybe that's a farm that you buy food from. But you don't know that, because they don't get on here and talk to you, right? They don't get on here and let you know how they feel about different issues. But they're behind the scenes doing their thing. They might be, you know, paying lobbyists to do certain things. They might be talking to their local legislators. And because they own a family business and they've been around for a long time, they got some pull. You know what I'm saying? They know who the plug is. So it's very important, you know, to know who you're giving your money to. That's also very important. But that was another little rant. But, you know, basically my point is that, you know, consistency, like I was telling my boy Chad, is very important. And also just feel like customer service. Like, I want to have the best customer service no matter what. I want to respond to emails quickly. I'm gonna pick up the phone and call people and ask them how their order went. So how did your order go? You know, first order, I'm calling people and I'm like, how's it going? How are you enjoying your produce? People are sharing things with me like, yeah, these are you know, these are the best collard greens I've had in a real long time. Like, I remember collard greens used to taste like this, but wow, like these were perfect. They were soft, they were nice. You know, this kale is really fresh. Like, I want to talk to my customers and I want to know, like, how was everything? Was anything spoiled? Did anything not sort of meet your expectations? And if so, like, how can I fix it, right? It's like customer service is the third thing. And then, I mean, the second thing. And then I think the third thing for me, which is something that I've kind of just learned, like listening to other business people, like either like reading or like listening to them, like, you know, through podcasts or YouTube and stuff like that, is like, you know, you doing as a business person, doing the things that work for you, right? So like our box, I'll give you an example. Like our boxes are set, right? Like every week we might have some of the same items, we might have some different items. But my reality is that my farmers grow what they grow. Like they grow the type of food that they grow. And, you know, it's a long process. So I can't say like, so you don't have cucumber this week. Like, no, because cucumbers don't grow right now. It's too cold for cucumbers to grow, right? Like, you don't have watermelon this week. Like, nah, it's not hot enough for these watermelons to grow, right? So the box is set, right? And it also helps me to have some flexibility with the farmers. And also, like, for, you know, people like y'all get to try different things, right? Maybe some things that you've never tried before. Like, I think everybody's eaten cucumber before, but I don't know that everybody's eaten Swiss chard, right? I don't know that everybody's eaten Malabar spinach. Like, it's definitely new. A lot of this stuff is new for me, and I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, like, just, you know, me making sure that it's manageable, me making sure that it's something that's actually obtainable, I feel like for a business is very important, because it allows you to have consistency. And people aren't expecting, like, if you set unrealistic expectations or like a really crazy high bar for yourself and can't meet it, I feel like you'll lose customers. You know what I'm saying? And I know that we, the people's market, we can't afford to lose customers. Like, we're just getting started, and we want our customers to tell their friends about us. Like, we want people to, like, really, you know, be excited about the work that we're doing. So, you know, I say that to say, like, I was talking to my boy and he was like, yo man, like, you're doing some great work. And honestly, like, I feel like, you know, I'm just trying to be consistent. I'm trying to do what I do, and you know, just do the best that I can do, you know, to make sure that I'm providing value, number one, for our customers. So that's the end for me. I'm here, and you know, I'm excited about what's to come. So man, peace, y'all. Enjoy your Saturday, man. Keep y'all head up. You know, it's a lot of things going on in this country, but remember, like, we the people, we run this for real, and we can't ever be disillusioned by any of this stuff that's happening, because we can change it straight up. So peace, love, holla at y'all.